Today's program, however, is focusing on two guest exonerees, absolutely remarkable stories. The first I'm going to call is Darryl Hunt, and I have to tell you that I have, for the past year and a half, and those people who know me know this, have become extraordinarily passionate about the Innocence Project and about the issues of wrongful convictions. Two things got me really going. One was visiting the Innocence Project website, which has a wealth of personal and wonderful narrative, anecdotal information, as well as statistics. The other was seeing two films. One of them was The Art of Innocence. Was After Innocence. But the one that really moved me was a film called The Trials of Darryl Hunt. This is one of the most incredible documentaries. You would not believe this was happening in America. You really wouldn't. This is a film that documents the 20 years of Darryl Hunt's case, and I would highly recommend that any of you. In 1985, Darryl was convicted for the first-degree murder of a 25-year-old woman, Deborah Sykes, who was a copy editor for the Winston-Salem, North Carolina newspaper. After serving 5 years, his conviction was overturned. His first trial was just riddled with legal error. He was then offered a plea bargain, plead guilty to murder, and he would be sentenced to time served. After 5 years, Darryl could get up, take off the handcuffs, and walk out of the courtroom. Darryl refused to admit to a crime that he had not committed and rejected the offer. He was tried again, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison. He spent the next 15 years in prison before being exonerated. This is a story of a man who is a hero in my eyes. Let me introduce Darryl Hunt.
I understand the struggles that you're going through, and it's a blessing that so many people can be here and really understand how this problem that we have. There's so many. There's 234 exonerees in this country, and there are lots more innocent men and women that are still in prison. And the things that drive us and drive me is to make sure that what happened to myself, to Roy, to Steve, to Kurt, don't happen to someone else. And that's what keeps us going. And I know when I was released in 2003, Christmas Eve of 2003, the one thing I wanted to do was be able to give back and to help others. And so I started the Darryl Hunt Project for Freedom and Justice, where we help work with other innocence cases around the country, trying to help free them. And we also do reentry work, which is so critical to both exonerees and people coming out of prison, period. Helping them get established. You know, what started before the Darryl Hunt Project started, I have to tell you the story. I went to apply for a job, and it was a job in reentry. And I went in, filled out the application, we talked, and I had all the expertise, but I was missing one thing. They said I was missing 19 years on my resume. And I could see if I was from another state coming in and applying for the job, but this was my home state. Everybody in Winston-Salem, North Carolina knew what had happened to me. And I was denied that job. And that made me realize that if people knew that I was falsely accused and in prison for 19 years, and I couldn't get a job, then just imagine how many other people who were less fortunate than myself could not get a job. So the project started from that point on, and I poured all my time and energy into building the project to help other people. Everybody wants a second chance. Everybody deserves a second chance. And one of the things that kept me going in prison, that kept me alive, was the understanding of forgiveness. I hold no grudge or bitterness against anyone that had anything to do with me being in prison. I don't forget it, but the one thing I understand is that in order for me to ask God to help me or to forgive me for anything, I first must be willing to forgive others for what they do to me, or else I don't have the right to go to God and ask God to help me or forgive me. And in that same sense is what we strive at the project to help, to make sure that each person understands that the responsibility of self, that you have to be willing to forgive and move on. Because regardless of what happened to me, Steve, Roy, Kurt, we all had a big tree on us. And then it was lifted. And I say by the grace of God, it was lifted. And now we're free. So to carry a burden of hatred or bitterness would only put that tree back on our back. So that's why we're so forgiving. Because we really understand, and we really want to give, and we really want to help others. Because we know what it feels like to be in hell. Literally. Prison is just that bad. And when you're innocent, it's 10 times worse. Because you cannot justify being in prison. And to come out and to be able to live. And a lot of people say, well, you're free. You should be the happiest person in the world. But nobody knows the nightmares that we still suffer from prison, the psychological effect of prison. Nobody knows that every night I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, sit on the side of the bed because I have to use the restroom, but I'm waiting on the officer to tell me that I can go use the restroom. Nobody talks about that. Nobody helps us with the psychological effects of what prison has done to us. And that's why what I do at the project, we try to work and talk with each other so we can work out these problems. And we try to educate more people about what we go through as exonerees. And I'm sure Kurt, when Kurt speaks, will talk more about it. But I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the things. When you see Steve and you see Roy, just understand that there's a whole lot that's going on inside of us that we don't talk about, that we can't talk about. But help us. If you really, truly want to help us figure this out so we can make sure that this don't happen to someone else. And this is the most important part of our life. So with that, I'm going to close with speaking about the project. You're going to pass out, we're going to pass out some leaflets on the HuntLunchHunt project, Freedom and Justice. But I want to thank you for inviting me to come here, and I hope I was able to say something to help you in your fight, because I believe that everyone is here because they believe in innocence, and they believe in doing the right thing. And and doing the right thing. I hope you continue to go out and fight for someone else that's in prison or on their way to prison for